Okay, it is 7 o'clock, June 15th, 2023. This is the Mount Lebanon Zoning Hearing Board. This is the time and place to hear appeal number 1855 for property owner Patrick and Elizabeth Healy, 731 Shady Lane, Pittsburgh, PA 15228. The appellant is the same as the property owner, and the location is 0 Castle Shannon Boulevard, lot 192-D as in Delta -144, Pittsburgh, PA 15228. This time I'd like to have anybody that wishes to offer testimony to stand and be sworn in. If the appellant could please come to the podium, state your name and address, and present your testimony.
Good evening. My name is David Montgomery. Pat and Elizabeth Healy. We're the owners of the subject property. I have with me tonight my associate attorney is in the back. There's Nate. Nate is going to help me. I want to thank the board for having us and thank Mr. Sarver and the municipality for considering the application for zoning relief that we filed. This is an application that we were asked to file on behalf of our client in response to a letter notice of violation received from the municipality. The Healys had a trailer and a small boat parked on the subject property. And the municipality wrote a letter advising them that in the municipality's opinion, that was a violation, and requested that they move the trailer and boat to another location. So we filed this challenge to that, the zoning officer's application of the law, because of our belief in what we're going to show tonight. The property has had a long-standing non-conforming use of off-site parking, including the storage of equipment and materials and the like for many decades past, in a more or less continuous time frame. I mean, maybe there might be incidental gaps, but for the most part, for many decades. And to this day, the lot is at least the portion that my clients have been using is gravelled and has been used for vehicle storage and material storage and the like. So we have some witnesses tonight to show you the history of the property and how it's being used. And we actually have prepared a slideshow that we're hoping we can display. All right, great. All right, thank you so much. So I guess the first thing, if we could bring up the first slide. See this display. How many books do we have? Let's hand out these books. Maybe that'll be, may I approach?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, you may have noticed that I raised my hand to be sworn in, even though I'm a lawyer. But one of the hats I wear is I'm a lawyer for the county for the assessment system. Don't hold that against me, but these photographs are printed from the county assessment website. So these are government records that I printed out personally. So they are from the county assessment system, GIS or satellite pictures. And I wanted to give them to you so you had some context of where this parcel is located. So the first 3 pages of this exhibit book are from the county website, and they show the subject property bordered in orange. So I think the first thing you're going to notice when you look at the first page in the exhibit book and first and second page is that there's a large, bright area that is actually gravel on the property. I don't know if you can see that. So the first page shows the context of the property. It abuts Castle Shannon Boulevard and the trolley tracks behind it. There are multiple lots owned by the Healy's here, including the lots to the west that adjoin the post office. That's the post office to the west up Castle Shannon Boulevard. Then the Healy's also own the lots to the right, traveling the other direction on Castle Shannon Boulevard. But the only parcel we're concerned with tonight is 192D 144. And that's the one bordered in orange here, okay? And if you turn to the second page, you have a much better view of the currently gravelled area of the parking lot. And then if you turn to the next page, the third page in this collection, you'll see a pulled away aerial view from the county records. There's the orange portion of the subject property. But if you look across the trolley tracks, you will see, if your eyes travel to the very corner of this exhibit, there is a tower. And I think it's a utility or electric tower in the very back. And the reason I'm showing that to you is because some of the other photographs in this exhibit book show that tower. And I think it's very helpful to see the tower and where it is in relation to the corner of this property. So you'll know, basically, when you see the tower, for the most part, roughly speaking, objects to the left of where that tower appears in the picture are going to be on the subject property. And things directly in front of the tower is more or less the post area used by the post office for parking. So I just included this to give you some way to orient yourself when you're looking at these pictures. These pictures were taken by Mr. Healy. So I'm hoping Pat Healy can come forward and I can take him through the pictures for the board's benefit and explain what they depict. Yeah, come on up, Mr. Healy. Mr. Healy, can you, you've been sworn in. Can you tell the board your name?
My name is Patrick Morgan Healy,
And where do you live?
731 Shady Lane.
And is your current occupation?
I'm a stay-at-home dad and I do some pest control.
Okay. And did you grow up in Mount Lebanon?
I did
And where did you go to school?
in Washington School.
Okay. And when you were a kid growing up in Mount Lebanon, were you familiar with the subject property?
Yes.
Can you describe what your experience was with the property when you were younger?
From Washington School, we would go to pizza shop here, Pub and Pizza, it's now Caliente. And there was Paul's Pizza down there. And then from there, we would go to, Mountain Boulevard and go to the arcade. So we passed it all.
Okay. And keep your voice up because we're being
Sorry.
recorded. That's all right. And can you just tell the board what your experience was with the property when you, in your youth?
When I was young, I just remember, there was the post office had it, the building, and then I remember, there was a warehouse, and then I think before that, in the early '70s, I kind of remember it being like a shop and save or something like that. Next to it, it was like big utility stuff, with big trucks. I remember we were always tempted, go over there and look at them, but it was like big utility. And then next to that was just tons of stuff. It was always building material and big stuff. That's what I remember.
Okay. Well, I'm going to take you through some of these pictures in the book. When did you acquire this parcel, by the way?
2015, 2019. But this,
Okay, you bought this lot in 2019. Did you own
That's
any of
correct.
the adjacent lots before 2019?
I did.
And when did you acquire those lots roughly?
That was 2015.
Okay,
There's
So-
one lot there.
okay. So in 2019, you purchased this lot. Can you look at the,
With other lots, I had purchased it all together.
okay, all right, so I'm showing this picture right here,
sorry, I
which is the
wasn't
next one in your book. So can you describe to the board what this picture depicts?
This picture depicts a really accurate picture of what the lot, part of what is visible if you go there. If you're across the street like this and you see across, the property line is almost in the middle of the picture, maybe.
Well, let me stop you there, Pat.
Okay.
There's that tower in the background, right? You
Yes.
see the tower?
Yes,
So roughly speaking, to the left of the tower on this lot, that's the subject property, correct?
that's correct.
Okay, and I see a date up here in the corner, August 18th, 2016.
Yes,
Did you take this picture?
yes, I took all the pictures.
Okay, and so does this accurately depict how the property was being used in 2016?
Yes,
And this is before you purchased this particular,
yes.
what, you gotta wait till I finish.
Sorry.
This depicts the property before you purchased it.
That's correct.
And, I see construction equipment on the property.
Yes, sir.
Do you know who was using the property back then?
I believe it was Gil's construction.
Gillis,
Gulasek Construction. Gulasek, the thing's pronounced Gulasek.
I can give you the spelling later on.
I'm sorry, I'll be a little loud.
And you gotta keep your voice way
Yeah,
up.
sorry.
Yeah, act like you're speaking to somebody in the back of the room, where
Not used to
not
it.
this intimate environment. You gotta project. All right. Okay, so Gillisick Construction was on the lot,
Yes,
okay? And what were they using the lot for?
I think storing their stuff,
What is their stuff?
equipment, material, piles of debris,
In what
Uh,
business is Gillisick?
trailers.
What kind of
everything.
construction does Gillisick do?
Heavy construction.
Okay, and that's their equipment in this photograph?
Yes,
Okay, let's look at the next photograph. And this has a date of August 28th, 2019. You see that?
yes, I did.
And what does this photograph depict?
That depicts just a picture that I thought was cool, and I took a picture of the lot, and it shoots straight across, I guess, from west to east, kind of,
So let me stop you there. You're taking this picture,
yes,
and to your back is the post office?
yes, yes.
Okay, the post office is behind you, so you're looking,
Behind me to the left,
okay, so you're looking towards the woods where the lot in question is located.
you're looking at the lot there, yes.
Okay, and,
Part of that.
and are those vehicles that appear in the distance on the lot in question today?
Yes,
Okay, and can you tell me, this has an August 28th, 2019 date.
okay.
Is this around the time you purchased the
I
property?
believe that is exactly the time I was purchasing the property, right around,
Okay.
I don't know the exact date.
Next photograph is also from August 28th, 2019. Can you describe this photograph?
Yes, that's, the same, that's material for staging, and, that's a construction company stuff.
Gillisick Construction?
Yes,
And did you have an understanding when you purchased the property whether this was permitted to be on the property?
yes.
And how did you come to that understanding?
When they asked me, I told them that the post office leases this property and that they're going to have to talk to the post office and make sure that it's okay with Mount Lebanon if it's needed.
Who were you talking to?
Gillisec people.
Okay, and did you have an understanding of whether Mount Lebanon was permitting this use on the property?
Yes,
And how did you come to that understanding?
I asked them, who did you speak with?
You asked who?
Then Farrell.
Okay, from Gillisick?
Yes,
Okay. And what were you told?
that he spoke to Rodney Sar, he just said Mr. Sarver.
Okay. And I have another photograph here from August 28th, 2019. Do you see that?
I did.
Can you describe what's in that photograph?
More of Gillisec's construction.
Okay,
Material and equipment.
all right. And looking at the next picture in the photo array from August 28th, 2019, you see that? And
Yes, I did.
did you take this picture?
I did.
Is that Gillisick Construction Equipment?
Yes, it is.
Is that located on the subject property?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And if we were to look at the next photograph, it appears there's a trailer in that photograph. You see that?
I do.
And what is that?
Really cool trailer. It's a big Gillisec equipment trailer.
Okay, so that's more Gillisick.
It is.
Okay, next photograph, September 2019.
Mhm.
What is that?
That is, more of another representation of Gillisec's, equipment that they used to rehab Castle Shannon Boulevard.
Okay. And, so you say they had a project to redo Castle Shannon Boulevard?
Yes,
Okay, and how long did that project go on for?
2 years, I believe,
Okay, and during that 2-year period, were they storing their equipment on this lot?
the entire time.
Okay, there's, next picture is September 2019. Can you describe what's on this photograph?
I can, it's Gillisec's equipment and material and trailers that they use to refurbish Castle Shannon Boulevard.
So this is around the time you purchased the property?
That's correct.
Okay. And there's another photograph, September 2019. Can you describe this, please?
Yeah, sure. That's empty pallets and a trailer with, a tanker on it.
Okay, Gillisick?
Yes,
Another photograph from September 2019 with a mirror in the photograph. Is this, your photograph?
yes,
Is that more Gillisick equipment on the subject property?
yeah, and yes,
Okay, the next photograph is from October 2019. Is that more Gillisick?
yes, it's all Gillisec's equipment and materials.
Okay, and,
Yes.
October 2019, more of the same?
Exactly, the same people, same stuff, Gillisec.
Okay, we have an August 12th, 2020 photograph. What's depicted in this photograph?
I think the same stuff, it's Gillisec's, debris on the right and their trailer on the left, and in the back, I guess, I think that's that spray trailer.
So that's a year later?
Yes,
And then we have one from August 30th, 2020. There's more materials there. Are those Gillisick materials?
yes,
All right. September 25th, 2020, we have more items.
yes.
And whose materials are these?
Those are, Gillisec's.
Okay,
railings.
all right. And then we have a September 25th, 2020 photograph of some heavy equipment. Whose heavy equipment is that?
That is Gillisec's heavy equipment.
Okay. And the November 20th, 2020 photograph, can we see that tower in the very back of that photograph? The November 2020 photograph that has a telephone pole in the foreground, and it appears that there's a large tower in the background. You see that?
I do, yeah.
Okay, so when we were talking earlier, the tower, when that tower appears in the photograph, objects to the left of it, for the most part, are on the subject property.
I believe that's very accurate.
Okay. All right, and then we have from June 5th, 2021, you recognize this trailer?
That's our green trailer, my wife and I,
Okay, and that's parked on the subject property?
right now,
Okay,
since then.
okay,
I move it around, but. But it goes back there.
okay. And then on August 2nd, 2021, there's a little darker photograph. What is that?
I took that picture because the flag was lit up and like that. It looked pretty cool with the equipment there. And that's a picture of, Gillisec's equipment.
Okay, so this is 2 years after the 2019 photographs that you took.
Yes,
So there continue to be use by Gillisick for at least 2 years.
they did.
Okay, so we have August 11th, 2021. We have a picture. Is that the same trailer we were just talking about?
Yeah, same trailer. So it's just, yeah, exactly. I moved it a little bit and I think I don't know, I was doing something tires up or something trivial. And that is a picture of the flagging, I think the flagging company or something like that is being used, not by me, but by the construction company.
Well, there's a name on the side of this truck, and I'm gonna guess, is that Wright, W-R-I-G-H-T?
I don't know, but I would imagine.
Okay, but you associate that truck with painting on the road?
I do. I thought they were painting or doing some kind of subcontract work for Gillisec,
Okay, and this again relates to
either flag and
road construction with the municipality.
I believe so.
Okay. And then August 11th, 2021, we have more heavy equipment and your trailer. Do you see that?
Yes,
So is that heavy equipment associated with Gillisick?
yes.
And moving to September 3rd, 2021. This is a view from the interior of the subject property looking outwards towards the post office, correct?
Yes, I have a, I have a security camera there, that picks up motion in the back because I've had people dump there. And the police told me, put a camera up and put some no trespassing signs. So I put the camera up and no trespassing signs. And it, periodically it catches people that, pull in there and stuff, so.
Okay. And I see a green trailer in the right side of this photograph. Is that your trailer?
It is.
Okay, is that the location roughly where we saw it in the earlier photographs?
Yeah, yes. Yes,
Oh.
the one photograph, the last one you showed me was a little bit different, but that is where the other photographs are.
Okay. And I noticed that this is a gravelled portion of the lot in question?
Absolutely.
Okay. Is that your trailer?
Yes.
The next, it says total pest control, December
Yes.
13th, 2021.
Yes.
Okay. And then, March 28th, 2023, I see another truck that's appeared. What is that for?
That is Sunrise Construction, and they are contracted through the post office, and they're doing work for the post office.
And is Sunrise Construction, storing some of their equipment on the subject property?
Yes.
I see a boat with a tarp in this picture. This March 28th, 2023 picture has a boat with a tarp. Is that your boat?
It is,
Is that the boat that was the subject of the enforcement letter from the town?
I believe so.
Thank you. Next photograph is from March 30th, 2023. Again, the boat appears.
With no hurry. It's in line.
Okay. March 30th, 2023, the boat.
You want to get some water? Yes.
Oh,
of
yeah,
course,
that's a
yes.
good idea. Do we have water?
Yeah. Please.
You want to run to the saloon?
Um,
Me? Whatever would work best for you. What do you-
Just send it back, so Jimmy, that would be really helpful. Thank you so much.
I wonder, yeah, that's, thank you, Laura. Yeah, let's step over here, and that way your voice will project towards the, court reporter. No problem. No problem.
We're good to continue.
Great. Next photograph that we were looking at was March 30th, 2023. And, this again depicts, certain construction equipment.
It does.
Is that on the subject property?
It is.
And that's for the benefit of the post office reconstruction, correct?
That's correct.
And there's a boat that appears in the, left-hand side of this photograph,
That's correct.
and that's your boat.
It is.
Okay. The next photograph is from April 11th, 2023. That's more of the same construction equipment.
Yeah.
You and your boat.
Yes.
And April 11th, 2023, we have a green trailer. You see that?
Yes.
Is that the trailer that was the subject of the enforcement letter from the town?
It's the same.
Okay. April 11th, 2023, one more photograph of the trailer and certain trucks. You see that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And there's another April 11th photograph in here,
Mhm.
showing trucks. And, another April 11th photograph taken out a window. Is that your photograph?
Yes.
Does that show materials?
Yes.
And are those materials on the subject property?
Yes.
And, there's an April 17th photograph 2023, that shows a great big truck and a porta potty.
Yes,
Is part of this on the subject property?
yes, most of it.
Most of it, okay. Next photograph from April 17th, 2023 shows roughly the same thing. And I would say we'll skip a couple of photographs here because they are getting to be redundant. And we'll skip ahead to a new date to June 13th, 2023. And if you skip ahead a little bit, you'll come to a photograph of a post office truck and a porta potty and a boat. You recognize that photograph?
I do.
What's the post office truck doing on your lot in question today?
They use it every day.
They use it every day. So they're,
Every day.
so the parking for the post office bleeds over onto this lot as well.
Their semis do, and, when they turn around or leave for any kind of movement like that, they have to come through.
So the size of these post office trucks requires a turning radius that puts part of their trucks in your lot when they're turning.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Healy. I think we have a couple of videos too. No, I think just go ahead and play them and we'll have Mr. Healy describe what the videos are. Okay, I guess just go for the first one you can, bring up. Mr. Healy, are these videos that you took?
Yes.
Okay, there's my comment. We'll have to give a quick narration. Sure.
That's an example of the post office, and, the post office truck right there he's actually on the question.
Okay.
He's waiting because there's another one in the bay. And the back of his truck is probably in the middle of his truck, maybe to the right, and I'd say 3/4 of his truck is on the lot. The lot. And trailer is, and then all the parking at the post office is doing, probably a couple cars. There's no line, they really don't know where it is, and I've never pointed out, I've never need to, they're friendly. So that's what that represents.
Can we go to the next one?
You just take a pause for a moment. The court reporter's just taking a drink.
Oh, I'm sorry.
her if she'd like some pop.
And, whenever you're ready, we can run the next video, and have Mr. Healy describe it.
Construction, the same construction material. and equipment and that kind of stuff. Work raining stuff in summer, so it's, stay on that.
August 2021.
Yeah, and right there's some equipment, see trucks, trailers.
Okay, just to rewind a moment, you bought the parcel adjacent to this parcel back in when, 2015?
Yes.
Okay, and at the time you bought that parcel, Gillisick was already there.
Gillisec was there on the property in question when I bought the property in question. They were, for years, they did 2 projects. They were there for like a year or 2, and then the project started running, and the project stopped for a minute, and I think what they did was they went up here, down to, Scott Road, and then they picked up from Scott Road, and went down. Down Road, where's that?
Okay, you're describing the 2019 era,
Yes.
correct? But even before that,
Yes.
back in 2015, when you
Yes.
first, hang on, let me finish. Back in 2015, when you purchased the properties adjacent to this,
Yes.
was there construction equipment back then?
Yes.
Okay, and what was that associated with?
The road construction.
And was it Gillisick or was it an entity known as Folino?
There was Folino and Gillisec at different times, but I'm not, at that time, it might have been Folino.
Okay, but this goes back in your memory with this property to 2015.
Yes,
And it goes back to when you were younger, just observing.
yes.
Okay, all right. Can we have the next video, please? And the date on this appears to be. We have the date on 17th. Okay, this is from April of this year. And so this tracks what we already saw in the photographs, correct?
Yes,
Okay, and is that a post office truck?
that is yeah, I think it's Sunrise Construction.
Working on the
Equipment.
post office?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
Sandy, can we have the next video, please? This is another 2023 from just this week. Okay, and this shows the gravel portion of the lot. That porta potty is about on the borderline, isn't it?
It's can I walk up there?
Yes.
Okay. I believe the boundary is pretty much right here. Right around there, so it's on the block.
Okay, thank you. Could we have the next video, please? And this is on Castle Shannon Boulevard
Yes,
from 2019, October.
yes,
Okay, you're driving by the subject property on the left of the car.
yes,
Okay, and right there, freeze frame shows construction equipment on the subject property.
yes. So right. Or right after the purchase.
Okay, next photograph, please.
They're gonna leave.
And what does this video show from September of 2021?
It shows, person that came on the property. Camera picked up.
Okay, and that vantage, looking at the post office in the distance.
Yes.
Okay, next video, please. That's all there is. Okay, may I have, next, you say, was Gillisick paying you for to lease the lot
They did.
after you purchased?
They did.
Here, I'm gonna show you, collection of checks. And I'll hand some of these out. So how much do you need paid by Gillisick?
Like $700 a month.
And sorry.
It's on.
So was use of this staging area important to you when you made your decision to buy the property?
Yes,
And as far as you could tell, it was permitted use because it was a project that the municipality was involved in.
that's correct. And when they, that's right. And I asked them when they needed to get through the post office, they had to check with the post office and they did. And so,
But not the post office,
Yeah.
I'm talking about not left.
yes, yes. They had to ask Mount Lebanon and they had to get permission from the post office through the part that I'm leasing to them.
Okay, was that an important factor in your decision to buy the property?
Absolutely.
Um, So in the course of preparing for today, did you contact the neighbors?
I did.
And did you obtain letters from the neighbors?
I did.
About your project?
Yes.
So I'm gonna hand them out.
They live directly across the street from the lot in question.
And some of them wrote letters, correct?
Yes,
Yes. And so you or your wife collected these letters?
that's correct.
And can you tell us, I only saw three. Pardon me, just. Was one of the letters from Polino Construction?
Yes,
Okay, and did that letter describe the history of the subject property?
yes,
Okay, and so Felino was one of the contractors that was using it as a staging area?
yes. I think my wife has a copy.
Okay, and Felino stated in the letter that they were staging there for 2 years prior to your purchase in 2017 and 2018. Correct?
I know Felina was, yeah, that's correct.
Okay, and one of the other letters is from a woman named Eileen Fuhrer, who lives across from the property, correct?
That's correct.
And Ms. Fuhrer wrote about her experiences with the subject property,
She did.
and she wrote that it had been used as a staging area as far as she knew in her recollection.
She's been there a long time. She told us and that it's always been like that.
Okay. And and she lives at 415 Castle Shannon Boulevard.
I believe that's
Is that directly across from the subject property?
correct.
Okay. And then we have, so we have a letter from Gillisick, and Gillisick is the contractor. Gillisick was the contractor who was on site when you purchased.
That's correct.
Okay, and they've submitted a June 7th, 2023 letter stating or discussing their use of the subject property.
That's correct.
Can I have a copy for the record, please?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm sorry. I know you did. I didn't.
If you need them to present, that's fine. I just make sure I need.
These are. So the relief you're seeking here tonight is to continue to use at least the gravel portion of this lot, to continue using it for staging and for that sort of incidental post office use, when they're rotating their trucks in and out, and also for the storage of some incidental trailer and boat for your purpose.
Yes,
So that's the relief you're seeking tonight.
yes, it is.
Okay.
I just want to keep it the same. We have seven, eight parcels there. And two of them, I always thought and knew that they were worked and were workable. And the rest of them, my wife and I like to keep it green and the way it is. But the
Okay.
lot in question, we just want to keep it the way it is, the same as it is. It's covered in gravel and it's been used partially for, drops off in the back. There's part of that property that you can't use, but there is a small amount compared to the whole property that has been used and always is used. And nobody ever used down at the creek. It's like 30 feet down. But yeah, we would like to maintain what it is. And what it has been.
Okay. I'm finished with Mr. Healy. The board or the municipality have questions for him. Otherwise, I can move on to my next witness.
You could continue your presentation. The board will ask questions when you're done.
Can I have, Mr. Kernan? And so, Mr. Kernan, when you testify, can you, keep your voice up and sort of show half attention to the court reporter so she can get what you're saying? Can you tell the board your full name, please?
David Gregory Kernan.
And Mr. Kernan, what is your profession?
I'm a contractor.
And, are you from Mount Lebanon?
I grew up in Mount Lebanon.
Okay, and, whereabouts in Mount Lebanon did you grow up?
I grew up on Main Entrance Drive.
Okay, are you familiar with the property we're talking about tonight on Castle Shannon Boulevard?
Very.
And how are you familiar with this property?
My whole life I lived in Mount Lebanon, driving by it, walking by it. My grandfather was a contractor that lived on Hayes Drive. When I was a young man, he would take me down whenever there was new equipment or anything there that he thought may interest me, and would walk me past the property and we would look at the equipment.
So what's your recollection of what was stored on the property when you were a kid?
Skid steers, Bobcat, excavators, dump trucks, and it was periodically, so it always seemed like, I remember Fasciano was doing a project. Fasciano would keep their equipment there. You always remember their bright red dump trucks. Lots of contractors throughout the year have staged their equipment there.
Okay, and how old are you?
I'm 51,
Okay, 51. So this is when you were a kid.
yes.
Okay. Did you have any experience with property growing up as a professional adult?
I mean, I just noticed I could kick myself. I wish I would have bought it. I would have been a good place for me to store my equipment.
Okay, and so as a contractor, you don't want a truck?
Yeah, I have a contractor. I have trucks, large equipment. So I always thought that was a place where it was okay to store equipment.
All right, thank you, Mr. Fernand.
Thank you.
Mr. Sparnagel, please. Stornagel, could you introduce yourself to the board and then give your full name to the court reporter?
Yes, I'm William Sternigal. I labor for Golisek, Steuernagle.
Mr. Stornagel, you were saying, did you work for Gillisik?
Yes,
And what did you do for Gillisik?
labor.
And when did you work for Gillisik as a laborer?
I worked on Castrina Boulevard. We talked about that a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, I worked there a couple days when they did, part of where it made the left going up towards Scott. I was there a few days and that's where their stone and, coal patch and different forms were at down there. Then I worked 2019 and 2020 when they did the other part, Castrina Boulevard. That's when we had all of our equipment, air compressors, trailers, grade off, backhoe, plus our forms and our channelizers and cones and that traffic stuff.
Was there any involvement of the municipality in the operation that Gillisek was running to repair these roads and construct them?
Yes, Mount Lebanon Police would be there and coordinate what streets or what lights they had to turn off for our flaggers to take over the intersections.
Okay, do you have any other familiarity with the property?
No.
Well, thank you, Mr. Stornagel. I appreciate your testimony. And we have Mr. King here tonight. Mr. King, do you want to say any words or is it being covered?
Thanks, I'd like to remember that neighborhood. That's gonna be an issue that
There's a gentleman in the back. I don't know if you want to speak in favor of the project for Mr. Healy.
Can we come up and give names and testimony, please?
Hi, my name's Samuel Morin, Morin, and my father grew up in the area and has been a friend of Healy's and associate of Healy's for a long time, aware of the lot. What he's expressed to me is similar ideas that I've heard here tonight. It's been a lot, it's been used, Gillisek, et cetera. That's about it.
All right, thank you, sir.
No problem.
All right, well, with that presentation.
You need these other ones back?
Well, that's our presentation. So if the board or municipality have questions, witnesses are available, or for me, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Mr. Scarron, do you have any questions?
One question I have, as I was looking at the ordinance, the zoning ordinance, it talks about what a non-conforming use is. And it talks about how a non-conforming use is a use that was lawfully in existence prior to the enactment of this chapter or amendment.
Right.
When was the zoning ordinance enacted?
You know, I think the first zoning ordinance was enacted in 1972. That's what it appears to be from the website. So, and that's why, you know, the letter from Eileen Fuhrer, I think, is particularly appropriate because she lived there since the 50s.
Do you know, obviously, the section that's in question here is section 8171 regarding off-street parking. Do you know when that particular provision of the zoning code was enacted?
You know, we requested the historic zoning amendments from the municipality, but, you know, for one reason or another, they weren't produced. And we were hoping to get those. We went to the Historic Society to look for them. We went to the public library and requested them, and we requested them from the municipality. But we did not get any word of those requests.
I have no further questions.
Mr. Campanero?
I have no further questions at this time.
I have a few questions. So the gravel lot or gravel parking area, has that been, kind of relatively consistent throughout the years? Kind of, has it grown in size or has it been about the same in size? Could you characterize
I
the,
don't think I can quantify precisely the dimensions of that. If Mr. Healy can talk about, you've been throughout the site and you can testify what you've observed, what appeared to be the area that could be used.
Yeah.
So I think, right now you can recognize the gravel area of the lot. But Mr. Healy, have you had a chance to sort of walk the
Yeah.
interior of the lot?
And of course, excuse me,
And what have you observed? What have you observed when you've walked the lot?
because we own a bunch of parcels there, it came all together, and, if you go through there, and you're all welcome to go there anytime, you walk in there and you're going to see material piles of different sorts that are throughout there, and you'll be able to see how some are older than others because of growth over top, if that makes sense. So I think at one point, the whole area was used for that. And then over time, it was just came down to those last two lots. And it's the one that's from the post office fence, and that goes over like 50 feet. And then from there, it goes over, I believe, another 50 feet. And those are the two that are really gravelled and open. If you go farther into the area that's a little bit overgrown and you look, you'll see it's all gravel. The whole place, but some of it is, we didn't, it's grown in. The part that we've been using has always been,
since you've purchased the property in 2019, has the extents of the gravel parking lot been consistent or the same?
yes, same.
At the time of I guess the violation, do you recall if either the boat or the green trailer were parked on the gravel or were they parked off of the gravel?
On, no, there's throughout the summer, after weed whack, pretty much all of it, I mean, not all of it, but you get weeds that grow through. It's just very natural, and a lot of seeds and a lot of stuff goes on there, so. I in the trailer, I have a weed whacker, a blower, snow shovel, and bird food. And I got bird feeders in the woods and stuff like that, bird houses there. And I weed whack to maintain the street along Pastor Shannon to make it nice. And I do some around my trailer just to make it so it looks, clean there, and I don't want it to look too sloppy, but if it rains hard in the spring and I'm not there for 2-3 weeks, it comes quick, so you gotta stay on it. But, sometimes it's a little greener than others, but it's gravel. You're more than welcome to go there and look. You'll be walking on gravel. Sometimes what happens is like, construction company will come in there and they'll put a pile of not clean gravel, but refuge kind of gravel or whatever from the job. And then when they take that away, they go below it. And then they push it around and then they, and then for a little while, you'll see dirt in the gravel. And then as soon as it rains, it turns back to gravel. Depends on what they're doing.
So is it safe to say that you've never purposefully enlarged the gravel
I never
area?
bought anything or did anything like that. The only thing I've ever done was collect money. I've never done anything. I've only spent money on just bird food and, stuff to make it look good, clean it up. Nobody ever really, I don't think, ever.
Further questions? Did any of my questions spur any additional questions from you, Mr. Scowen?
One other question I have for council is, what precisely is the relief you're asking for here? This isn't a zoning You're not asking for a variance. This is simply an appeal of the zoning violation.
Yeah, I think the precise remedy would be here, would be a finding that the violation was not enforceable because the alleged violation was actually shielded by a lawful non-conforming use. So I think that's the relief that you would get. The violation would be stricken. Yeah. I think that would be more precise way to put it.
I have no further questions.
Mr. Campanero?
I did have a question. What maintenance have you done to the gravel since you've owned the property?
I have, like I said, I used a weed whacker and I think once or twice I used a like Home Depot thingy, you know?
Okay.
Didn't like work. It was just a weed whacker.
Thank you. And I guess we would want to move all of our exhibits into evidence.
Yeah, can we have a zip drive or something of the videos then?
I think Sandy has that, and you can keep that, right? Elizabeth? Sandy, keep that?
I think that's mine, and I use.
Save that folder.
Yeah, you can save that, but remove it wherever you want. Mr. Sarver, what's the municipality stance?
The municipality's position is basically, we received, an anonymous complaint concerning the trailers parked on this gravel lot or property. And basically investigated, noticed that there was some signage on the trailer as well. Our code enforcement officer wrote a violation notice. It was found in error because it was referencing the property. If you're standing on Castle Shannon Boulevard, it was referencing the lot to the left, which is 192D 9501. So it's the one closer to the post office. I talked to Mr. Montgomery about the violation and advised him that we would withdraw that existing violation because it was found out that it was issued to the wrong property for the trailers being parked on the property that they're actually parked on. So we proceeded to write a second violation notice to the correct property. And obviously, because it's a zoning issue, you have to give them the right to appeal to the zoning hearing board. And at the end of the violation period, basically, Mr. Montgomery filed for an appeal. I've had several conversations with Mr. Montgomery and Mallory. And basically, it was discussed as far as they wanted to know what we used as evidence to say that hasn't been a non-conforming use. I advised them that the only thing that I went by was our GIS maps, which have aerials from 2019 as well as 2017, as well as Street View, Google Street View. If you go on Google Street View, you can go on any street pretty much, and it'll give you the date that they actually traveled down the road, and basically, videoed as they traveled down the road, the conditions of property as you go. And we use that quite a lot in code enforcement, just to determine a timeline of when certain things existed. They also filed a right to know request, which I guess was partially answered, but they also asked for historical records. They asked for historical ordinance records. And I advised them that we have no searchable file to determine what ordinance they were looking for. And I sent several emails basically advising them if they let me know, we can try to find what ordinance that they were specifically looking for. And they would not advise me as far as what specific ordinance that they were looking for me to try to dig it out of the archives. Again, we're here today in my research, and again, just as I advised them on it, they called, basically, you can take these. These are the street view images that I referenced. And the municipality's position is basically the fact that these trailers were parked on this vacant lot. The lot has no use associated with it. So the actual violation was written up under 817. Point 1, which says no vehicle in any district shall be parked off-street at any time except on an authorized parking lot, parking area, or driveway. And we did not find any use or permitted use associated with any parking lot, parking area, or driveway for the property. So if you take a look at the street view images, you can see this is from current or November of 22, and I took a couple angles on a couple of these photographs. If you see the telephone pole that is behind the green trailer, that is roughly the property line between the lot that we originally wrote up, which is closest to the post office, and then the property that we currently wrote up where the trailers are actually in existence. So you can see it shows some cars parked on the parking lot next to the property. And the only thing on this lot of question is the green trailer. It looks like a little flat trailer and a boat trailer. If you go to the third one, which is July of 22, you can see the green trailer. You can see a lot more green area just in July of 22. Again, another one, July of 22, it just shows you that a lot of that area has vegetation on it. If you go to July of 21, you can see the trailer parked there with no signage on the trailer. You can see that there's some gravel there. Same way with the other one from July of 21. And you can see where the telephone pole is in the right side of that property or that photograph from street view. Again, that's roughly where the telephone pole is where the property line is based on our GIS maps and the county maps. You can see November of 2020, there is actually a pile of gravel and some trailers and some equipment on there. You can see the porta-john in the background. So this agrees with the photographs that they submitted for the 20s, 21, 22, etc. Again, you can go back. However, when you go to July of 19, when the property was up for sale and the Healy's bought it, you can see from to the left of the telephone pole, it's completely vegetated. There's no gravel there. If you continue to go back, a different angle in July of 19, again, straight back from the telephone pole, there might be a slight little bit of gravel extending onto that property, but not to the extent that is shown on the current aerial. Again, you can go back to August of 2008, 18, July of 17. Again, the telephone pole is a reference of where the property line is. So everything in the foreground is on the lot that is closest to the post office. Everything beyond the telephone pole is on the lot in question. You can see the for sale sign in 2012, April. Again, you can see all vegetated. And then you can even see in September of 07, even the front portion of the lot in question. Well, you can't even see the lot in question because of the vegetation in front of the lot that the post office uses for, I guess, overflow employee parking. So those are what we used as reference when we wrote the violation to show that, you know, this hasn't been a non-conforming use because again, as as the chairman stated before, under our ordinance, if you go to our ordinance and the definitions for non-conforming use, A non-conforming use is a use whether of land or of structure, which does not comply with the applicable use provisions in this chapter or amendment, therefore, or thereafter, or hereafter enacted, where such uses was lawfully in existence prior to the enactment of this chapter or amendments, or prior to the application of this chapter or amendments to its location by reason of annexation. So again, it doesn't meet the definition of a non-conforming use because this use has only been established through photographs and through evidence of GIS. If you go to our GIS mapping, and unfortunately I did not print this out, but the Healy's were given a copy because they requested a copy of it, of our GIS mapping, which you can see based on our GIS mapping, which is dated 2019. There is no gravel on that lot. It's completely vegetated as of 2019. I can get a date if you would prefer, because it's on there through the layers. So I don't argue with the evidence that they presented as far as photographs, but most of those photographs that they presented was for activities that were on the adjacent lot closer to the post office, not the lot in question, which the violation basically consisted of. So based on our GIS map, as of 2019, and you can see the photograph. It's already there. So again, the violation that basically was written is due to the fact that there was no parking area, parking lot, or driveway on that property. We were also asked as part of a right to know request to gather information on the property. And the only thing that I can find, the three questions that were asked were any and all documents regarding to this parcel, any and all documents, including but not limited to permits, photographs, correspondence applications. So again, I referenced, I don't have any photographs other than the photographs I took a week ago for this case tonight. And those was what I printed off from Google Street View. So I have no historical photograph history for this property other than our GIS mapping, which on the current layers, which is on the public website, is 2019 and 2017. I looked in the system for this property, and we have a public service manager that basically keeps track of past history of this property. There was obviously the active violation that we wrote on 4/12 of this year, and then there was several violations from one in 1991, one in 2001, one in 2002, 4, 7, 8, 13, 16, 2 and 17, and 1 and 18 were basically high grass encroaching upon the sidewalk or vegetation encroaching upon the sidewalk. And then there are 2 permits in the system. The first one was a miscellaneous interior for a building permit dated 5/2 of 1928. And then on 6/4 of 1963, there was a demolition permit. So I would assume at some time prior to 63 that there was some type of building on the property, but I could not find any historical record of what type of building was on there. So again, based on that evidence, we proceeded to write the violation notice. And then obviously they have the right to appeal. So we are here tonight. Again, our argument for the municipality is that this is not a non-conforming use because this section that we wrote them under 817.1 was actually enacted into the zoning ordinance by ordinance or ordinance number 3110, enacted on September 26th of 2005. And we've had ordinances, we have old zoning ordinance books upstairs that go back into the 40s. So we've had a zoning ordinance for quite some time. So again, our argument is that there's no non-conforming status on this plot because the evidence that it is being used for currently has only existed the last 3 or 4 years. And there's no approval that was ever given by the municipality for any work there. If there was any work given by the post office, under the statewide building code, we have no jurisdiction over federal owned property, so they can do building permits or they can do building construction without any knowledge of us because we have no jurisdiction over post office federally owned property. And if any road work was done for Castle Shannon Boulevard, that is not our road, so we never gave any approvals for any type of storage use on that property. I can only see archive-wise, based on street view, that it looks like the post office used the lot to the right for like overflow employee parking.
Sorry, can you repeat the part about Castle Shannon Boulevard?
Castle Shannon Boulevard is a PennDOT road. So we have no jurisdiction over the construction on that road. So whether or not the contractor that was doing work on Castle Shannon Boulevard got permission or not from the property owner, we have no knowledge, because that's PennDOT, and then they hire contractors. So we have no knowledge of any approvals at all for any use being issued to use that as a contractor's yard. They have not.
Mr. Scallon, do you have any questions for the municipality?
I do. Mr. Sarver, you mentioned that all the historical violations for the property in the past were for high grass.
Was for vegetation overhanging the sidewalk in front of it. So if you look at the street view images that I handed out, you can see that there's a sidewalk directly behind the curb. So it was for the vegetation blocking the sidewalk, the use of the sidewalk.
So nothing about parking or anything like that?
That is correct.
The GIS photo that you showed us from 2019 that seemed to show grass on the property,
Correct.
what time of year was that taken?
I would assume fall only because there's no leaves in the vegetation. And see if I can get it, a date here. So there is no date, it just says 2019. And then you can also click on a 2017 imagery, which actually shows, if you zoom in close enough on our public website, you can zoom in and you can get the 2017 image, which is, you can see there's a lot more vegetation in 2017 as far as the greenery on it. So I would assume that it was taken not in the fall, but at some later date, because you can see more green in it than you can in the 2019.
You mentioned something about 3110, a version of the zoning code enacted in 2005.
Correct.
What was that? Is that the entire ordinance? Or is
No, that was all the zoning amendments at that time that created the section that we wrote the violation letter from, which was 817.1, which says no vehicle in any district shall be parked off-street at any time except on an authorized parking lot, parking area, or driveway. So that's when that section was created and added to the ordinance. Before that, there were parking provisions, but that verbiage that we actually wrote the violation off that current section. That's when it was enacted as part of the zoning ordinance.
I have no further questions.
Yes, I do have a few questions. On the subject property, there appears to be a porta-john at the time of the photos were taken. Was there a reason that was not listed as part of the violation?
If you look at this photographs that I took for the hearing tonight, the four that are actually in your folder. I don't believe that the porta-john was there at the same time that we wrote the violation, but it's also very close to the borderline of those two lots. So I don't know if it's on that other lot or not.
Okay,
If you take a look at, it's not in the 2019 imagery. So to be honest with you, there is a pole. There is a pole in this image that is on the back edge of the neighboring lot. And it's laying down, and it's hard to tell based on this, but I believe that that porta-john would be very close to the property line of those two lots, if not onto the neighboring property.
and why was the neighboring property not cited when that was inadvertently cited? You said and I get that number right, lot 192D95 was originally inadvertently cited, which there's clearly parking in the imagery provided to us.
Because I had no evidence otherwise to say that it wasn't a non-conforming use.
That's what I was trying to understand.
Yeah,
All right, thank you.
because everything I looked at, there's always been a gravel lot on that lot itself.
Okay.
But it only looks like it's only being used for overflow parking for the post office, because when you look on all the past imagery that we have, like the 19, there's nobody parked on it in the evening or, off hours. So I think what happens is, I think the employees from the post office parked there because the post office trucks were in their parking lot. Rather than swapping vehicles, they just parked there and then walked
Walked
on
over.
into the post office lot and continue on.
Thank you. No further questions.
Based on your research, there was never an approved plan, site plan for parking or anything of that
I have no
nature.
record of any permit history other than those two permits that are in the system, but I can't even find the hard copy files for them, because they're that old.
I have no further questions. Did you want to address any of the,
Well, I have some question for Mr. Sarver, if that's okay. Thank you. Mr. Sarver, you mentioned, in your remarks that there was a right to know request. to the
Correct.
municipality, and that was from me to you, correct? Or
That was
to the
from-
municipality?
That was from you to the municipality, correct?
And that was dated, May 3rd. I have a copy for you, if you want to see it.
Yeah, you'd have to check with the right to know officer.
Well, no, you mentioned it, you're familiar with it, I'll hand it to you and see if you recognize that as the right to know request.
That is correct.
And that's May 3rd.
That's what the date is.
Right, and you're saying there was a partial response to that?
There was a partial, what happens when we get right to know request? It basically goes out to the appropriate offices and departments to respond to. And I implemented responses into that. Then it goes to our solicitor to respond.
Okay, but there was no response to.
So I don't respond directly. I respond to the system, and then the solicitor reviews and responds to the requester.
So you were aware of it.
That is correct.
And the municipality, you presented a lot of photographs, GIS photographs. You made you made references to permits, and you made reference to other municipal documents concerning the subject property. And you didn't supply one of those.
I did.
No, you did not, sir. When did you produce the permits that you found in your file?
I put them into that right to know request. Absolutely.
And that was never sent to us by the municipality.
Again, it goes to the solicitor through the right to know officer.
Well, I can tell the board that we never received a single document from the municipality in response to that right to know. And Mr. Sarver may not be the right to know officer, but he is the municipal representative here tonight. And we didn't see any of these photographs. We didn't see any of these documents. And I object to any documents being submitted by the municipality tonight when they didn't even comply with our right to know. And I'll point out, Mr. Sarver, we also requested the historic ordinances from you, didn't we?
You requested historical ordinances,
Correct.
and I responded and asked, what historical information are you looking for so that I can better assist you in basically finding what you're looking for?
And you also said,
And I was given no searchable evidence for us to look for.
well, and you also said, well, why don't you file a right to know?
That's correct.
Right, because you had already not responded to our first right to know.
Again, I am not the right to know officer.
All right, so you're gonna pass the buck to somebody else.
I am not passing the buck. I just explained to you the system, how it works. The right to know officer receives the right to know request, forwards it to the appropriate offices and departments. We respond to that, and then it gets forwarded to our solicitor.
And then you also told us tonight that you knew precisely the historic ordinance at issue. In fact, you had it at the tip of your tongue. It was from 2005, and you gave the board the ordinance number, but you didn't give that to us.
Because I just looked it up this week.
Didn't, we had a request to you for the historic ordinances, didn't we? And you came back and said, oh, I have no idea what you're searching for. Isn't that
Now,
your response to us?
if you look at your emails, and I believe it was Mr. Mallory that requested it. He says, Mr. Sarver, what is the best way to obtain copies of historical ordinances for Mount Lebanon? Question mark. At the very least, I would like to stop by and look at historical ordinances. Please let me know how how I should proceed. I responded back, Mr. Mallory, what specifically are you looking for? Question mark. There are no master searchable file that we can search. However, we may know where to find something from past searches or hard copy code books. Most likely, you should file a right to know request for the proper department or office to assist.
Okay, and how many days before that hearing was our
This
request?
was dated June 7th.
Okay, so last week.
That is correct.
You're telling us to file a right to know request a week before the zoning hearing.
No, I'm basically asking Mr. Mallory, what is he specifically looking for so I can assist him to find it.
Okay, and then you.
And
took-
then I said, as I am told, any request for information should go through a right to know request.
I understand. And then you did your own research and you found it like that, didn't you?
No, I did not find it like that. It took me quite a while to flip through hard copy code books, zoning books, to find actually when that section was added into the ordinance.
So when Mr. Mallory asked to look at the historic ordinances, you had those hard copy ordinances with you, didn't you?
He asked for searchable, he asked for historic ordinances. I have no idea what ordinances he's looking for. Whether they be zoning, whether they be for a street, for Castle Shannon Boulevard, I have no idea what he's looking for.
Okay, and Mr. Sarver.
That's why I asked the question.
Mr. Mallory wrote back to, this past Tuesday at 10:37 a.m. and responded to you and said, we're looking for the historical ordinances. If you have hard copies of the historical ordinances in your possession, we would like to look at them. I am more than willing to stop by your office to look at the ordinances. Right?
Correct.
And so you have those ordinances in your possession because you said you were looking for them yourself.
Again, I responded on the 7th, asking him what specifically he was looking for.
But tonight, you didn't have any problem telling the board what you thought was the ordinance.
No, again, because of this hearing tonight, I did my research yesterday, basically pulling out what the actual ordinance was.
Okay, and all this time, you had a pending right to know request from May 3rd that was never responded to.
It was responded to.
Not, it may be internally at the township, but not to us.
But again, that's up to our solicitor.
Okay, all right. Well, you are the representative tonight and you are responsible for what the township does at this hearing tonight.
And again, I presented my evidence at this hearing tonight.
Right, correct. And I would ask the board to disregard any documents that would have been responsive to that right to know request.
But at the same time, I sent you an email, Mr. Montgomery, that explained where I basically, alls I got my information was from the specific street view ordinances.
Did you produce the pictures to show tonight?
No, because I advised you it's the same, it's from Street View.
Well,
I figured you could print them out from your computer the same as I can, or else you'd have to pay us to make copies for them.
okay, well, let me ask it a different way. You gave a selected version of street views to this board tonight, right? You didn't give every Google image in history of this property. You chose which ones you wanted to produce.
No, I just went back. If you look at the bottom bar of those photographs that I gave you copies of, the street view. If you look at these, this is every image every year. That's all I printed out. This shows the past history.
Okay, let me show you a photograph, June 18, 2015. You see that? You see that represents the subject property?
That is not that subject property. That's the property associated next to the post office.
Okay, there's construction material in the rear of this photograph. You see that?
Again, that lot is the lot next to the post office. You can see the curb cut by the driveway there. There is no curb cut in front of this lot.
I'll direct your attention, Mr. Sarver, to this photograph, August 18, 2016. You see this tower in the back of this photograph?
Okay.
August 18, 2016. And if you were to look at the county GIS maps that we produced, that tower appears at the left-hand corner of the subject property. You agree with that?
The tower is behind the lot adjacent to the post office.
Right. And if you look at the county, the first page of the certificate that I presented, you'll see that the tower appears in the rear to the left of the subject property. So this portion where my finger is the subject property. Will you agree? Based on the county maps. By the way, we never got.
You're referring to this third drawing, third image.
Correct.
So you can see, here's your red lot, the lot of issue tonight. If you produce that straight back, the tower is to the right of it. So you're looking straight at the tower in that photograph, which is the lot next to the post office.
Right, and
That's-
everything on this side is the subject property,
Everything,
on the left side.
everything to the left of that photograph.
I think the board can look at these photographs and make up their own. You presented the municipality GIS tonight. right?
Correct.
And that's another document you didn't give to us. even
It's,
though
it's on our website. It's a public document.
You intended to use that tonight. You thought it was relevant to this proceeding, and yet it was not produced to us in response to our right to know request.
Again, if it's a public document that's on our website, same with the Google Street Views that I responded to before.
Well, the fact is, that.
And Mr. and Mrs. Healy came in and got a copy of our GIS map, which they did not present tonight.
In any event, I can only talk about the municipality's failure to respond to that. And that did not.
Again, I cannot answer to that because
Personally, blaming, I'm saying the consequences. Talk about. Should be dealt with by the court, and that the documents that were not given us to have a fair hearing, because we don't get discovery. I can serve document requests on the municipality. There's one tool in our toolbox, find out what documents the municipality has. And that is a right to know request. And we came up with nothing from that, even though now, all of a sudden, the township is giving all sorts of documents that they would like to rely upon for the That's unfair. It's a violation of due process if they are not complying with the request and then are trying to use those documents, in their favor at the hearing.
Do we have excuse me, do we have a copy of the right to know request?
And, we also have the correspondence from the township asking for a 5-day extension. And, or a 30-day extension, that they're entitled to this right. So the right to know request is due on Friday, June. And we contacted the township several times saying, where are our documents? Do you have that correspondence?
First correspondence.
Okay, here's the exhibit I'd like to present before. My correspondence is on cross, asking for, the documents first. This cause requested an extension for 30 days, which would lapse from June 8th. And here's the extension that Mount Lebanon obtained. Her title that as right, the documents were due on June 8th. Friday, government came and went, and we didn't just sit on it, we came back to the township and we wrote them again and said, folks, we've run through your deadline and we don't have your documents yet. Because we was out here coming up, and we would certainly like to get your documents. So that's from Tuesday. Tuesday saying, please, we have a zoning hearing coming up this week. We need your documents in silence from the municipality. So Mr. Sarver may not be the right to know officer, he's not to blame for this, but the township should be stopped from relying upon any evidence that wasn't pretty for whatever reason to us. It's just not, it's not fair, it's not the way things should work. So we'd ask, not to blame Mr. Sarver, the township should not get the benefit of not complying with the rules and not playing fair.
Any response to the right to know request on June 8th or thereafter?
No, nothing. Silence from the township, even though we emailed, several times and, you know, they had their extension until June 8th. So, nothing.
I know under the right to know law, if they don't respond after a certain amount of time, the request is deemed denied. And you can appeal that denial. Did you appeal the denial?
No, because the extension was on Friday, but they didn't. It's not like they didn't respond. They requested the 30-day extension. And so they weren't planning, and then we wrote to them and said, are you going to comply? And there was silence at that point. But the fact is, they may say that they were not going to respond, but it turns out they had a whole trove of documents. So they can go to the open records office in Harrisburg and say, oh, it's being done, and they should appeal. But I'm talking about tonight. I'm talking about what's the right thing to do to protect the rights of my client. And if they don't comply by producing documents, which again is the open record box to find out what they're applying upon, they shouldn't be allowed to talk. It's quite simple. I don't know what started, but I'll just say that we have a lot of photographs. He produced photographs from the 2019 to 2020 period. We have sort of papered the file with the photographs from that period of construction activity. And we have letters from people in the neighborhood, from Felino, from Jelisek, talking about the use, 2-year use for Jelisek. Felino was there beforehand. We have the immediate adjacent neighbors and use for Jelisek. So, we're not contending it's used every day, or maybe every month, but that law doesn't require us to be there, you know, all the time. It requires a more or less reasonable continuous use, which some months you're not going to be using it, maybe other months you will be. But, so that's our position on that. I don't doubt the veracity of some of the photographs that Mr. Sarver shown from the street view looking across the property. Can't see the gravel in a lot of those photographs. You can only see a limited point of view from a Google Earth car driving by. But we think there are several different ways of looking at the evidence in this case. That's all.
All right, thank you. Is there anybody in the audience that would wish to provide testimony that has not done so already? there anybody online that would like to provide testimony? Okay, we will now enter executive session.
Actually, can I ask a question before we do that?
Sorry, go ahead.
Mr. Montgomery, I believe when we started the hearing this evening, you mentioned you work in some capacity as, and then for the assessor. So you're familiar with
County assessment.
the county assessment? So you're familiar with the GIS mapping? Provide, you referenced it
All I
here.
can say, it's a county, that's a county record that I can certify as a county record. That was from my county computer.
Okay,
So that's-
I'm just
that's
trying to
an official-
understand.
It's an official government record.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand. So you're familiar with this information, right? And the website that this information's on?
I have personal information of that.
Okay.
Yes.
That's why I'm just trying to understand what you've used in the past and relied upon. So have you ever used information like this from Google for any of your, so the records they provided to us tonight, have you ever used this in your past?
But
In that
it depends
capacity.
on for the purpose, I think they do have limited utility. Do they tell the whole story? I don't think so.
I'm not trying to find out if they tell the whole
Yeah.
story. You're trying to say you couldn't find this information on your own is I'm interpreting what you've said to us tonight.
You mean, was it my burden to find those photographs?
I'm not saying it was at your burden. I'm just asking, could you have? Like, were you aware of this?
I don't know, because I didn't do the search.
Okay.
So I'm assuming, I have no reason to doubt Mr. Sarver that he did that. But I also think that if he had those, he was obligated to give them to us. So that's sort of a different question.
Yes.
Can I just add something to that? Mr. Montgomery, I emailed you on March 23rd, advising you of where I got our evidence, and I did not agree with your interpretation that it was a non-conforming use, and that I used Google Street View. So on March 23rd, you were aware that I used that. I did not print these out until recently. As a matter of fact, at the beginning of the hearing, you've seen me putting them together, because I just recently printed those out.
The property lines used in the municipality's GIS system, are they the same property lines, property information used by the county?
It's a different GIS system, but the imagery comes from the county.
The actual, not the imagery, the actual property boundaries that are shown.
The county has a 911 GIS viewer, which is very similar to our GIS mapping, but they're not the same system per se. And then the Allegheny County Assessment Office, they use their own GIS as well. Now, I don't know if that's tied into the Allegheny County Emergency Management or not. I don't know.
GIS, the county assessment is tied into the Department of Court Record or the Department of Real Estate. So you got to record a deed. There's a mapping department within real estate that uses GIS, and I think they create those images.
Council, in your photographs that you provided to us, the one from November 2020 is a Google map view that appears to be Google Street. It says Google Maps in the top corner.
That may be something provided by them. So, yes, I'm not arguing the technology wasn't available. I'm just saying that we had a right to know that it's not compliant.
Are there any other questions from the board to the municipality or the appellant?
No.
No, not at this time.
Okay, we will now go off record and enter executive session. On the record now. So we've discussed and in light of the, right to know request, we would like to offer, if both parties agree, a continuance to allow some additional time to, let the right to know request process go through and to review the, I guess, the municipality's, information presented today, if both parties agree. If not, then we are prepared to vote. Yep. Yes.
Was here tonight, sign in on the sign-in sheet. Could you please sign in the sign-in sheet in the back? Just as a matter of record of who's here, yes. It's a quasi judicial hearing. So we just want to keep record of who was here. It's required to be signed in so that we know who was here as part of the hearing.
Sir, please sign in. If you're not going to sign in, please leave.
There, we'd like to opt for the continuance, get the right to know materials, review those and come back and follow up with respect to those issues.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Mr. Sarver?
It's not my decision to do, but yes, I mean, like I said, I can talk to the staff, the right to know officer, and let them aware of what was said tonight.
Okay, we will continue this hearing at another time. That will close the record.
Mr. Chair, what's the likely resumption date? Would that be in July? You know,
We had one hearing for July, or one case, I should say,
do you have a date for that, Mr. Sarver?
July 13th, I believe.
It may depend too when you get a response. So I'm trying to remember the code. I mean, I think you have to appeal within 30 days of the denial. So, I mean, you still have time, I think, but they may provide a response in the interim.
Right, yeah, so it's a good point.
Yeah.
Definitely something to follow up.
So I would assume if you're in contact with regard to when you get that response, right? Because we don't want to schedule the hearing before you get the documents.
July 13th will be the next scheduled hearing. After that, the next scheduled hearing is August 10th.
Thank you for those dates.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, folks.
You go off the record now.